Hi there, I'm Steve Wiggs. I look after the data center practice at MTI.
And hi, I'm Tim Hearn. I'm the Northern European Director for VMware Cloud on AWS at VMware.
So Tim, our clients are telling us that they need to lower the costs of running their data center and also need to increase the flexibility of the same data center. So for example, if they need to take advantage of a merger and acquisition that might be taking place, you have the flexibility and speed that the cloud offers. But at the same time, they don't want the complexity of the cloud as well. So really, what we're looking to do is to see how we can integrate both the private cloud with the public cloud to the best advantage to offer to the business.
So we have this conversation with our customers every day. Boards want to take a cloud-first strategy because they want to drive business agility. That's been driven down into IT and into the business. IT organisations want more productivity and capability and want to be able to reduce costs. So there's some very valid reasons to be able to adopt public cloud services. The question is, what do you do with the infrastructure that's currently on premise? So do you leave it behind? Do you integrate that? Do you migrate it and replace it? And those discussions are more complex. And so we kind of think about cloud strategy in two ways really. You are the new for new, so you're developing new applications into new clouds.
Yep.
In which case you have much less legacy to think about.
Yeah.
Or you are migrating your what's on-prem. So you're doing new innovation with existing infrastructure. And certainly one of the conversations that we've been having around VMware Cloud on AWS, it's how do you make the most of that on-premise investment that companies have made over a number of years, but to be able to leverage all of the benefits of the cloud at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's a key question, isn't it? Because you're right to say they know the technology that they've got within the data center. They've made it work after a number of years, and now here's the cloud. It's a whole new paradigm for them, and a lot of the IT managers that we speak with are, how do we get in there? How do we make advantage of it? One of the big issues they have perhaps is they know how to manage their existing environment because they've built up a tool set over a number of years. But if they look at what they might have to do within the public cloud, it's a whole new world of management tools that they might have to go and learn and understand and get trained up on. And this is seen as a bit of a barrier, I think, as well. So I guess anything that the VMware Cloud on AWS could offer to facilitate the management of the environment once you've actually got in there would be of a big help.
Yeah, it's a key issue because you've got an operational side of that, but you've also got a cost management side of that as well. So, the VMware approach to cloud overall is that it's a multi-cloud environment, and that cloud could be a private cloud on premise. It could be Amazon, it could be Azure, it could be Google, it could be any number of VMware cloud partners, for example.
Yeah.
And being able to manage operational consistency, security management consistency, cost management consistency across those multiple clouds is absolutely essential for an enterprise IT organization to be able to manage that holistically. And I guess there's two components of that from a VMware perspective. One is all of the vRealize investment that customers have made can be used into cloud. So you extend those skill sets into the cloud, particularly with VMware Cloud on AWS. You manage VMware Cloud on AWS as if it's an extended part of your on-prem enterprise.
Perfect.
But then also our acquisition of Cloud Health. So Cloud Health allows you to be able to manage your cloud environment from a cost optimization point of view and an operational optimization point of view as well, and we'll be able to extend that back into the on-prem environment as well. So you'll be able to do that management at a holistic level. But all of this, as I said, all of the tools that VMware customers are currently using to manage their on-prem today, extend into that, particularly into that VMware Cloud on AWS environment too.
Does it have any relevance if you have an ELA with VMware already, for example? Is that something you can incorporate with the cloud elements?
Yes, so you can either purchase VMware Cloud on AWS as part of an ELA. So if a customer has got a hybrid cloud environment where they've got some on-prem environment, cloud environment services, etc., then you can include credits to purchase VMware Cloud on AWS from within as part of that ELA. If we've got customers that will purchase VMware Cloud on AWS as a standalone purchase, so we can manage either approach really.
That's great. So you're not kind of locked into the old that only works with on-prem licensing. It also works with the cloud.
No, absolutely. Well. Yeah. So we've got some customers that have never bought VMware on-prem.
Oh, right.
And have just bought VMware for their cloud program. So we've got a lot, mostly existing customers that are extending their on-prem environment into the cloud and making use of that. They're customers that have got existing AWS relationship. Therefore, they see the benefit of having both having the proximity of their VMware estate with their AWS estate, and then we also have customers that are predominantly AWS that need some element of VMC, VMware Cloud on AWS, and you have customers that are starting from new.
There you go.
So it's exciting times.
It is. You've got lots of choice there, haven't you? I guess if I was looking to do this as a client, I'm going to have to consider a couple of things really, apart from the connectivity options that might be available, but also the security implications of perhaps using the public cloud for the first time. Mm-hmm. Can you explain how that might work or how that works in practice?
Yeah, so there are multiple aspects of the assurance or compliance process that customers may want to go through. There are technical parts of that, but then there are procedure and operational parts of that as well. So from an architecture point of view, all of the things that a customer would experience and it would have gone through from a security approval point of view for the on-prem environment would be absolutely relevant and parallel within VMC, because effectively the software-defined data center that you have on-prem is the software-defined data center that you have within VMware Cloud on AWS. Just happens to be sat on a different hardware infrastructure in a different facility. So from a technical point of view, a lot of that translates across. There are specific networking elements that you need to go through because you're tying, say, NSX or VMware software-defined security into the hardware layer that AWS have. AWS have published a lot of papers around the security of their physical infrastructure, which has been very clear. They've done a lot of work with the National Cyber Security Centre. But then on the operational side, we've done a lot of work which we can take customers through around GDPR. We've also gone through the ISO standards around cloud, and also SOC 1, 2, 3. So SOC 1, 2 and 3 really focus on the operational processes that you have as a cloud provider, and there's a lot of detail behind that will satisfy customers when they're looking at how do they make sure that their cloud provider has put the right operational processes in place to safeguard their data and their access.
That's brilliant. Yeah, very important, those things. And I'm thinking as well that the cost of the solution in the public cloud, that includes all the software licenses required. So you're not looking at a separate charge, if you like, for the infrastructure and then software on top of it. It's one.
So when you buy VMware Cloud on AWS, you get software-defined data center in the cloud. So we've had some customers that on premise only had vSphere, so they didn't have NSX, they didn't have vSAN. They might have had quite an old version of vSphere as well. So the process of migrating into VMware Cloud on AWS means that you get the latest version of vSphere. You get NSX and you get vSAN as part of that package. So it's a great way to be able to get the full value of a VMware software-defined data centers stacking in one go. And the nice thing about that is VMware Cloud on AWS operations team will do all the patch management of that. So we're managing that layer for the customer from an operations point of view, which means the customer can then focus on all of the other things that sit above that.
That sounds great. I think one of the other barriers perhaps to doing this kind of integration with the public cloud is always, but look how long it's going to take me to migrate my apps, whether it's going native into Azure or native into AWS, for example. And I think the VMware Cloud on AWS is something that will definitely accelerate that program. But if you've got the examples of how that works in practice as well.
So if customers are making a migration to the cloud, there's a time factor, there's a cost factor, and there's a complexity factor. And many customers have gone through that assessment and made their decisions based on business value and business outcome. That actually strategically that's the right thing to do. But many customers don't look at that in enough detail. And for many customers, it costs a lot more money than they were expecting. It takes a lot longer than they were expecting, and actually uses a lot more resources because there's a lot more complexity than they first thought. So many customers are finding, and AWS are introducing us to customers that have found this, that the fastest, the simplest, and the lowest risk way to be able to take existing workloads and migrate them to the cloud is to move them into VMware Cloud on AWS.
Right.
And then the value of having that workload then sitting in the cloud, untouched, without refactoring, without changes to any operational processes or the way that environment is managed, means that you can then have the proximity to 140 AWS native services that you can take advantage of.
Yeah.
So what we tend to find is that making that change, a fast migration from on-prem to the cloud, and then taking a more pragmatic view about what AWS native services are important to integrate into that on-prem environment to be able to add increased value to both environments, is certainly something that customers are seeing a lot of value from now.
Yeah, I can imagine. And also I would expect it, now that you have that proximity to the AWS services, you may decide actually the applications that we thought we would need to refactor don't require refactoring. So in fact you might end up saving money in the long term by having less.
Yeah, well sometimes you want to look at
do.
refactoring because that's the only option you have, but now you're able to move that on-prem onto a cloud platform. Maybe some of those reasons go away, but then what you tend to find is an example for now you're going to be able to integrate the vSAN, so the virtual storage environment within VMware Cloud on AWS, and what customers are used to on their on-prem environment, you can integrate that into the elastic block storage, EBS, that AWS have. So if you're a customer that's got a significant amount of storage requirements, that can be quite a costly thing in the cloud.
Yes.
But to be able to integrate vSAN and EBS is actually quite a powerful thing. So you're taking advantage of the software-defined data center that customers are maybe used to now today, but also be able to augment that with elastic storage that AWS provides.
Right, yeah, best of both worlds then.
Indeed,
flexible compute and the EBS for the large quantities of storage you often need. Another example I've had recently is a customer has two clusters. He has his production workload cluster, and he also has his VDI desktop cluster as well. Again, is that something that works seamlessly or near seamlessly?
Yes,
plenty of flexibility there. And I think when I talk with my clients as well, they're also thinking, okay, so in this multi-cloud world that they're faced with, the different choices and so on, it seems to me that the VMware Cloud on AWS does seem to be the most straightforward option perhaps for somebody that already has an existing skill set and knowledge base around VMware. So definitely a good place to go. Can you tell us a bit more about some of your recent clients' experiences and why they went this particular route rather than perhaps choosing to go to Azure or AWS native?
Yeah, and I would say we get quite a lot of questions from customers about should I go VMware Cloud on AWS or should I go native AWS? And the real value of VMware Cloud on AWS is you should be doing both, because you're leveraging the value of VMware and you're leveraging the value of AWS. So for customers that are already VMware customers on-prem and are AWS customers in the cloud, it's a very natural next step, because you're just leveraging the value of both. You're bringing the two together, and you're able to innovate faster, and to be able to bring new capabilities that you probably would struggle to if you had that separation of on-prem and cloud between the two environments. A cloud decision for a customer is really dependent on where they're coming from and where they're trying to get to. And that can vary wildly between one customer and another. So for some customers using Azure, if they're heavily invested in Microsoft and have got a lot of .NET development skills, it's probably a very good way to go. We can help with that. VMware can help with that. But if you're a customer that's made an investment in AWS and you're a VMware customer, then it's a perfect choice. And a good example of that is Stagecoach. So they obviously run a number of bus services in the UK and train services as well. They were a VMware customer, a fairly traditional VMware customer, But they'd also been heavily investing in AWS native services as well for some of their digital services that they were offering their customers. And actually, AWS asked us to go and see Stagecoach with them,
right.
because they had an application that they needed to migrate, and they wanted to integrate, and there was no business case to be able to refactor that into a native cloud service.
Right.
So we worked in partnership with AWS, with the customer, to be able to work through the dependencies of how to migrate that application. And it was a very, very fast process.
Oh.
So about a 12-week exercise to be able to work with the customer to understand what they needed and to be able to get to a stage where we were able to stand up a cloud environment for them.
Right.
They provisioned that software-defined data center environment in the cloud themselves over a couple of days, and they migrated that application in 3 weeks.
That's not bad, is it? Yeah.
So in terms of doing a cloud migration of an existing application, that's a very, very fast process.
Yeah,
but the business, as we went through that process, though, so the tactical reason was they needed to move this application.
Right.
As we worked through with the customer, there were other things that then came out because Stagecoach grow by acquisition. They buy other bus companies, train companies, some franchises, and when you make an acquisition, you're acquiring IT. And they quickly recognised that when they're making acquisitions, the ability to be able to take the software stack and to be able to migrate that into VMware Cloud on AWS and leave all of the hardware behind and not have to acquire that hardware or have to make a substantial investment in re-platforming that environment made mergers quicker, saved them an awful lot of money and made it much simpler from an IT perspective. So now VMware Cloud on AWS is part of their standard M&A practice.
Oh. So it seems to me, from what you've been telling me so far, Tim, that VMware Cloud on AWS is not just suitable for DR strategy, it's absolutely fine for running your production workloads on, which I think is going to be a big vote of confidence for clients thinking of going this way. You already described some use cases there for some quite complicated workload migration strategies and how you accelerate those. Do you feel that it's definitely production ready and lots of other examples?
Totally, yes, totally. So DR is a use case, but it's actually probably the third or the fourth on the list of priorities and list of use cases that we're seeing from our customers. Right? The vast majority of our customers have production workloads that are sitting in a data center, and they either have a strategy of data center migration or their data center rationalization, and they're looking for a way to be able to move those operational applications, but they've made a decision that either from a timing point of view or a cost point of view or a complexity point of view, they don't want to refactor those applications into native cloud. So they want all the benefits of cloud, but without the complexities, times and cost. And therefore, to be able to move that into VMware Cloud on AWS is the quickest and simplest way to do it.
Perfect. And I guess my last question would be at the moment is where are the clouds? So is there one based in London? Are we in Dublin? Whereabouts can we actually take advantage of this environment now?
So VMware's strategy is that wherever AWS has a data center, we'll put VMware Cloud on AWS globally. So that's the overall strategy.
Sure.
Obviously, AWS are opening data centers all the time as well, and we're following that process. So at the moment, we have data centers in the US. We have in Europe. We have London and Frankfurt. We have Dublin just powering up now. We're expecting on the program to have Paris early next year, and then next year we also have Stockholm and Dubai on the roadmap for next year as well. But also AWS have just announced Stockholm.
Right.
They've just announced South Africa, so they'll be on our roadmap over time as well.
Perfect. So I guess if I was a client looking to work more closely with this new application suite with the VMware Cloud on AWS, is there a route to success that you would recommend those particular clients to follow to make sure they get from A to B as quick as possible?
Well, I think having the conversation around what needs to move and what doesn't need to move. So let's have a pragmatic view about where does the boundary sit between what is on-prem moves into the cloud or gets refactored into the cloud. There are multiple ways to be able to get to that endpoint of full cloud adoption, and work through that properly. I think one of the most successful projects that we've seen is where we have customer and partner with AWS and VMware together around the table, and I think that customers really appreciate the fact that you can have a partner that understands how to deliver the services and consultancy, and you have AWS and VMware sat at the same table, being able to paint the vision of where we can get to with cloud, but also show the pragmatic steps that need to be taken to be able to get on that journey. And for us, the relationship with AWS is a very positive, very collaborative relationship, and we're expecting that to go from strength to strength over the coming months.
Excellent. Tim, in your previous example, you described how easy it was to get a workload migrated into the cloud. So it sounds to me like you can really provision things quickly. Can you tell us a little bit more about the speed or the agility of the new cloud environment?
Yeah, it's amazing, and especially when you talk to customers that are used to provisioning VMware on-prem. Sure. It's actually great to see their face when you actually see how quick it can be. So to stand up a software-defined data center in VMware Cloud on AWS, you can do that in 2 hours.
Yeah, it's a little bit different to trying to do it on-prem, isn't it?
Absolutely right. And then if you want to add another node, so you're working in concepts of nodes, which are a certain amount of CPU, memory, and storage. Sure. To stand up an additional node is a click of a button, and it's 12 minutes. Your ability to be able to stand up additional services, bear in mind if you're working as an on-demand, you can shut it back down again afterwards. Your ability to be able to build your environment quickly, your ability to be able to add capacity quickly, and your ability to be able to right-size that quickly is completely under the customer's fingertips.
It does sound great, and also, of course, being cloud-based, you have that flexibility of billing as well, so you don't have to get the purchase order signed off in advance.
Absolutely.
Wait for delivery.
and it's quite interesting just to be able to see internally within VMware the speed at which we're bringing services onto VMware Cloud on AWS. So when we launch a new data center, so when we launched London, for example, we released a software release with that data center that then permeated right across all of our data centers globally. So everything's on par. Right. But that was a major software release. But what we're doing is we're releasing software every 30 days. So there's a 30-day release that's continually adding functionality and features into the platform, and then when we launch a new data center, you get a major release coming through as well. So the speed of feature richness on it is just amazing.
So it's hard push to match that with the physical environment, wouldn't you? In the old-fashioned way of doing things.
Yeah, indeed, and it's actually it's part of VMware's transition to being a cloud company as well. Right. For us to be able to have the ability to be able to move at that speed and to deliver that level of service, those levels of features and functionality at that speed, and be able to do that on a global basis. Fantastic.
So Tim, how do you see partners like MTI helping you with the rollout of VMware Cloud on AWS?
Yeah, partners are fundamentally important to us with our cloud, to help our customers to be able to migrate to the cloud. So we are reliant on our partners to work with customers and ourselves and AWS to be able to help our customers to migrate where there's additional complexity that they have, and to be able to help them plan, migrate and consume the VMware Cloud on AWS platform. So the sorts of services that companies like MTI can provide, absolutely fundamental to us.
Well, Tim, thanks very much. It certainly sounds like something that clients should be investigating further. So it's VMware Cloud on AWS.
It's been a pleasure, Steve. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.